Hi, everyone. I'm Sarah Brown, and welcome to the latest episode of The Mothers, where we get to know the amazing humans out there making a dent in the universe and raising the next generation. These are also folks who often don't really think they're doing anything particularly noteworthy either. So we're here to pump these peeps up. And our guest today very much meets that description, an unassuming badass. Let the work and product speak for itself. Focus on doing the right thing, one step at a time. Let the chips, or in this context, the bagels, wink wink, fall where they may. Today, we have the privilege of talking to Mary Ting Hyatt, the mastermind, owner, and chief baker at Bagelsaurus. Yes, that one. If you live in Greater Boston, and Apple's impressive analytics tell us most of you do, you are likely familiar with Bagelsaurus in Cambridge and the thrill of trying to get a bagel over the weekend before they sell out. I first became aware of Bagelsaurus in my early days at Google in Cambridge when we made a team trip down Mass Ave on an outing led by another Middlebury grad. Yes, Mary went to Club Mid and came out a baker. This puts her at the top of my list of cool people I know. As you'll hear in our conversation, Mary is someone who wasn't entirely sure what she wanted to do when she grew up. Thank goodness. She was too busy absorbing life, noticing what was going on around her, what she liked to do, what she found useful, what she found fun. For a while, she wanted to be a teacher, but after a semester abroad in college, she started to get into the beauty and meaning of making food. After a few hops, she wound up working at Cutty's in Brookline, where she was encouraged to figure out this bagel recipe she'd been chewing on, and ran a few pop-ups. Also, shout out to Charles and Rachel Kelsey, the husband and wife team behind Cutty's, for mentoring the next generation of restaurateurs, because the pop-up popped. And soon, Mary opened Bagelsaurus on Mass Ave. Just a few years after opening the shop, Mary had her first child, and her second on the tail end of COVID. Mary is doing crazy things. But if you listen to her, she is calm as a fucking cucumber. She seems built for guiding a ship through a squall, which, for anyone that's watched The Bear, seems to be an essential skill set. In our conversation with Mary, we talk about the messiness of welcoming kids into the world and how it can both rock and solidify your sense of identity. The importance of finding that third thing in life, remaining curious about the instinct to just do it ourselves, and how the idea of scaling the wild success of Bagelsaurus just doesn't really blow her hair back. She wants to keep making the bagels. So friends, grab that bagel and enjoy our conversation with Mary Ting Hyatt. Such a treat to be able to meet you. We were, of course, scoping you out on the internet, and you have this incredible, serene energy. I don't know if it's true to you, but I felt calmer. I was like, okay, life's going to be fine because look at Mary.
Yeah. Say.
We can explore that. You can tell us if it's real. So we like to start asking our guests to kind of share their version of how they tell the story of their life so far, and how we get to the Mary of today. If you wouldn't mind kind of indulging us with how you would describe your journey, that would be a lovely place to start.
Well, yeah, I grew up in Wilmington, Delaware, Joe Biden country. Yeah.
I was born in Wilmington.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That is wild.
That's so funny.
That
I love
is
that.
unusual. What
Sorry to-
hospital?
Oh my God. I'd have to look at my birth certificate, but I will.
For me.
Wait, that sounds.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
Wow.
I love that. Cool.
Delaware connection. You don't find very many.
We love humidity.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Oh my God. Sorry, continue.
Yeah.
That's all you need to know.
Anyways, thanks for coming, Mary. This is so great getting to know you.
Circle pit. Wilmington, Delaware. Went to like the same school, K through 12, little Quaker school there. And yeah, kind of just like wonderful, nice suburban upbringing, driving down like 202, going to Blockbuster Video with my friends. It was great. Played a little soccer.
Oh, nice.
And
Blockbuster, what a throwback. I miss those days.
Yeah, I know.
Going to select the DVD off the shelf. Okay.
Yeah, it was great. And both my parents worked. My dad worked in Philly as a professor at the law school, and then my mom was a physician. So I grew up, watching her work, and she would bring me to the hospital sometimes when she was doing rounds and stuff.
Yeah.
So I got that model, and then went off to college in Vermont,
Club
Middlebury,
Mid.
and yeah, liberal arts college. I had a wonderful time, learned a lot, made great friends, met my husband, all of that great stuff. Didn't necessarily feel any more focused upon exiting on like what I wanted to do with my life.
Mhm.
In retrospect, I think I could have like explored things that I didn't know in college rather than just like taking all the classes that were fun to me, like, reading
Yeah.
books and stuff. But
Mhm.
all in all, no regrets. I thought maybe I wanted to be an English teacher coming out of college, sort of by default. But I do think I would have loved it, actually, like the whole life of teaching and coaching and working with
Yes.
high schoolers. Sounds pretty
My
great.
gosh, that's my alternate life path as well.
Oh,
I
yeah.
have the same aspirations.
I feel like Mary, you would be like Miss Honey.
Oh.
Like, I'm like, you should do that.
Yes, I actually totally agree.
Yeah, I just like always I loved so many of my high school teachers and thought they were great mentors, and it was cool how you
Yeah.
could see them on and off the soccer field too in different roles.
Yeah.
So it seemed like kind of a cool life, but that isn't what I ended up doing. I didn't get any of the jobs that I wanted, so just kind of on a whim, I decided to move to the Boston area, to Somerville at first, and live with one of my best friends from growing up and go to culinary school down the street. There was like this 6-month program, so it didn't seem like a big commitment. And I thought, like, okay, I'm going to do this and then kind of figure out the job thing. And
Yeah.
I'll work in like a cafe while I'm in culinary school. And then I just sort of fell in love with it. And just kind of rode the wave of working in restaurants and then just trying lots of different things, from like family Italian type restaurant to more fine dining, to then realizing I didn't really like working nights and switching to a totally alternate schedule of like working early mornings in bakeries, and then kind of thinking, oh, maybe I want to get into food media. I tried like internship at America's Test Kitchen. That was really cool. And learned something new from all of these places. But in the back of my brain, I always had this idea that it would be really cool to run my own shop. And eventually kind of plotted out my next job so that I could get the experience that I thought that I would need to do it. Granted, I was like in my 20s and pretty naive to all of the things that were involved in that, but I think that was perhaps for the best, or else
I was
I'm
gonna
not
say,
sure I would have jumped
sometimes
in.
you need to be just
The
dumb
ignorance
enough
is,
to do it.
yes,
Yeah.
cautiously optimistic.
Yes. Yes.
So yeah, I worked in this awesome sandwich shop for like 3.5 years called Cutty's in Brookline.
Yeah.
And this was in the like 2011 to 2014 pretty much zone. And there, I just had the coolest mentors, Charles and Rachel, who are still my good friends today. And they encouraged me to develop the bagel recipe and like start a pop-up there. And they really pushed me forward. And then opened Bagelsaurus in 2014, and it's been a wild ride. I used to live in Cambridge near the shop, so I was like a 10-minute drive and had no kids. So that was kind of like everything was about the business. I could be there so fast, and I could really focus on it for the first 3 years, like focus on that and nothing else, which was really good at the beginning. I'm grateful for that period. And then I had my oldest son in 2017. And then in 2021, we moved out to the burbs. I had my second son by then. And now things are just so different.
And you like moseyed through COVID.
Yeah.
Casually. Yeah. Dang.
So that's where we are. So life is different. That's sort of life in a nutshell.
Yeah. I'm so curious, actually. We'll talk about the mother side, but where did the interest in food, neither of your parents were professionally into food.
Right.
Where did the food stuff come from?
That's a great question. I think partially from studying abroad in college. Cool. I studied abroad in Argentina, and we just ate out at restaurants all the time.
Yeah.
We were lucky enough to be able to afford it in Argentina at the time when we couldn't in the US. And it just like opened my eyes. And I stayed with this host family. And they had someone come in and cook all the time, and she would bake a ton. She would bake lemon meringue pies and these zucchini tarts, and I was always asking her questions about like how she made that, and she gave me some recipes at the end because I was always asking.
Oh, I love that. That's
so
great.
sweet.
I really think that kind of fueled my interest in it all. And then I remember getting back and just starting to watch all this food TV and getting so curious. So, but yeah, I really didn't grow up with any sort of focus on culinary at all.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so cool. Good for you for being curious about things.
Yeah. And like
and noticing what
exploring
you're
that.
curious about.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. So, okay. So you had started Bagelsaurus, which was it immediately like a phenomenon, or was it
It was
is anything
quite busy from the start.
Yeah.
Much busier than I had anticipated because the pop-up had gained like a following, and that followed us. And I was very unprepared when we opened for everything.
Yeah.
I read an article about like your opening day or something, and then everyone had left and you started crying, and your mom was like, "You don't have to do this" or something, and you were like,
pretty much.
"Okay." Which is just so funny that like you don't have to choose this misery. I imagine you're like, "No, I want to."
Yeah, it was nice of her to say that though.
Yeah, to hear that.
But yeah, it was crazy. I think we opened with maybe like 6 employees and a line down the block, and we really hadn't. I just thought that we could kind of figure it out as we went along, but we didn't really have that time. So it was a rough start, really rough. But
it reminds,
I don't know. There's a good thing about like signing a lease and you
committed
just
to it.
Yeah. I was going to say, it reminds me of having a first child.
Yeah.
You're like, this is just, it's happening.
Can't go back now.
Can't be prepared. Right. We've signed a lease.
Right. And you jumped in without knowing everything.
Yeah.
Without knowing a lot.
Yes. And you kind of just make it work. How could you even get into the mind space of like, maybe we could introduce into a kid into this? And then what was it like to then be juggling everyone kind of I've been hearing people talk about their other child being their business, their startup, their business. And then you have this existing human child. But tell me what that was like, because that seems impossible.
I don't know that it was like super well thought out. I don't know that anything that I've done has been like from a place of like weighing pros and cons. I have just sort of, I don't know. I just do a lot of stuff by feel. Yeah. Luckily, my husband's like kind of a more regimented, organized person, which is helpful for our family. But
it's a good balance.
I don't know. I guess I've often thought that it's so funny that like the most intense years of career and parenthood often line up. And like, wouldn't it be nice if things were staggered a little more? But like I was already, by the 3 years into Bagelsaurus, I was already like approaching my mid-30s. So it was like, okay, if I want to do this, I guess we're gonna have to.
Yes, that is the crunch.
My husband was in law school too, so it was a particularly intense time.
What can we do?
Yeah.
But I think he had graduated by the time our son was born. So
wow.
That was good.
How did you well, actually, one question I did see, and we've interviewed various folks that have had in different ways high demand jobs. I think some are particularly unique in that, like the food business or like coaching soccer, there's a physical presence required versus a can I log on from home and deal with emails and do calls? You seem to have created a little bit of space for yourself to take some time around having your first kid. I'm sure not as much time as one would ideally have, but you seem to kind of, despite being maybe not strategic about it, you seem to also make sure that you have a little bit of breathing room and a little bit of space for all parts of your life. I don't know if that's actually true, but that's what it seems like.
For sure, having my kid helped me to do that. And I think it was really not until after my second boy was born that I really made the space. For a while, I just couldn't figure out how it was even possible to take myself off of the schedule of the bagel shop.
Yeah.
People were always like suggesting that to me, and I was just like, you don't understand.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sure.
I have to be there. But it just wasn't possible anymore.
Mhm.
So yeah, it forced me to delegate in a good way,
Mhm.
to get less stressed out about schedule stuff.
Yeah.
So now I definitely feel like, I don't know, there have been moments when it has felt so intense to have your own business while balancing being a mom, but it's also such a blessing because I have like a more flexible schedule
Mhm.
now, and like for the first time, I think about a year ago, maybe a little bit more, I finally delegated making the schedule to someone else to
Yeah.
manager at the shop, and that has been like the biggest exhale, because when you're making the schedule yourself, you know, we have like 25 people on staff or something like that. Whenever there's a hole, you feel the pressure to fill it yourself. But now that someone else is making the schedule, I can actually tell them like, oh, I'm sorry, I'm not available on Wednesday afternoons or whatever.
Yeah.
Just like I'm a staff member too, and I have like a life too. So it's kind of like, oh, I guess I could have been doing that long, but it's hard to set those boundaries for yourself.
Yeah. I was going to ask if you would share, it doesn't have to be like beautiful lessons, but a theme of all of our conversations has been this of you're running the equivalent of a business, kids come on the scene, and there's a moment where you're like, I need to delegate. I need to hand some things over to others so I can at all keep all these balls in the air. There's a lot of hesitation to do that. And then once you're on the other side of it, I'm curious if it feels okay. All of the reasons you were hesitating suddenly feel okay. But if you could talk about what that experience was like of kind of relinquishing a little bit of control and then what it felt like on the other side, I think that might be very interesting to everybody.
Yeah, I think like with the business, it's been like relinquishing control has been almost all positive. Like when we opened, I hadn't, I don't know what I was thinking. I hadn't taught like anyone else. I was the only one who was trained to do certain things because I just thought, oh, I like to do this, so I'll just handle this. Like no matter if I get sick or blah blah blah, I'll just always do it. I was like the only one trained to do the early morning shifts. Like one Saturday, I missed my alarm and I was late to my own shop with the wake off, and no one else could do it.
Yeah.
So that was sort of a wake up call. But
yeah,
yes, having a kid was like the biggest wake up call, and finally helped me like get some management in place so that the shop could run. I wouldn't say run itself. It could run more smoothly without me there. And it's great because then that creates more opportunity for other people. Lots of people want to learn and get more involved and are just waiting for the opportunity. So that's been really rewarding. The most rewarding thing is seeing staff members ask other people questions and not come to me. Not that I don't want to be there for them, but it's so rewarding to see them trust someone else.
Yeah.
Decisions, and then for those people to be empowered to do that is so nice.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, it's always like a challenge to train somebody to do something that you feel like, oh, I could just do it. But then it's always worth it in the end.
Yeah.
We talk about this like mentality, a lot of this like group project mentality where it's like, listen, it's so fun to all work together, but like, I'll just do it. And like, you guys can come with it, but like relinquishing that and to like, I like the way you frame it of like, other people are looking for the opportunity too. And so you're helping yourself and you're helping them. So if you can't do it for you, do it for their opportunity. And I really
have
I
to
like
remember
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I haven't been as good about delegating like on the other side at home. I mean, I've been really lucky because my parents help us a lot.
That's great.
But I think I've been reluctant to find like a V, which like I just like.
Well, no one can find a V. There's only one.
I need a V.
Right. Yeah. I just like, I think because I manage people at the shop, I'm like, I really don't want to have to manage my like home in that way. Like, I'll just do it. I'll just do it. And granted, I mean, I do send my kids to school, so I'm happy to like put that in someone else's hand.
Sure.
But I just don't know how to like delegate some of that like home stuff.
Yeah.
I could use help with. but it's going okay.
Yeah. Do you feel the classic, I don't have enough time on either side, I'm always rushing, how do I stay present in the 15 minutes that I see them at bath time kind of thing?
That's so up and down for
Yeah.
me. Like right now in this moment, I feel a good sense of balance. But then, like 2 years ago, things felt so crazy. And in those moments, I do panic and I think this isn't sustainable. In those moments, I get super stressed and I think like, I gotta sell this bagel shop. This is too much. There's no way I can do it.
Yes.
But I like just have to remind myself that there is always that up and down. And like with small business and with children, like you don't necessarily know when the peaks and valleys are coming. So
Yeah.
Well, you did an amazing job navigating
appreciate
through.
when things are calm.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Do you have like I'm even going through this as we start this, because there are so many ups and downs and they feel so, every up and down feels so, you feel it so deeply. Do you have like a North Star asking for a friend? Do you have like, do you have like a mantra or maybe a reminder of why you're doing this at all that kind of helps you manage through the inevitable crises?
Well, I have to remind myself about the ups and downs that like when things are really hard, it's just a down. And I have to remind myself sometimes that it is worth it to have my own thing sometimes. Like there are times that there's nothing I would rather be doing than getting ahead on the laundry and starting dinner early. Sometimes that is exactly what I want and it feels so good to have things under control. And then there are other times when it feels like not quite stimulating enough for me. And I'm so happy to have like a creative outlet to throw myself into.
Yeah.
So that's what kind of keeps bringing me back in those panicky moments when I think like, I need to get rid of the shop. I might have like 6 more months in me. Like in those moments, I try and remind myself that tomorrow I could feel like I need it.
Totally.
I guess all the more reason to have that community in your staff and your
I don't know
parents.
that I'll ever stop thinking that way, though. I don't know that I'll ever be centered enough to not panic and wonder about how I could change it. And maybe I will someday, but
I fear that's just life.
Yeah.
Like there's always something, right? And it comes and it passes. It always
Do you
does.
have any like role models or partner? I imagine there aren't a lot of, I mean, female chefs is also already a little bit of a rarity. Female chefs with kids, probably maybe even more so. But I don't know if is there a community or do you have people you can confide in this? You do?
It really is. And I think I was lucky enough to work for a lot of moms.
That's cool.
I don't know whether I just sought them out or it just happened organically, but I worked for a lot of couples.
That's great. I know you mentioned the Cutty's crew, Charles and Rachel. Is that right? I was curious if they had kids. I don't know.
Several jobs before that. I feel like almost everyone I worked for actually was a husband and wife team.
I love that.
Oh, that's nice.
And you work with your husband works with you now, right?
Actually, no, he doesn't.
Okay. Well, he just runs the Whole Foods or something. Yeah. I don't know. I read
he did help.
Yeah.
In the first several years, he like would work weekends on the egg station and stuff. But we realized it was a little
too much.
If it had been up to me, I would have pulled him in completely, but he resisted, and it's probably for the best.
Yeah, it's your thing. I love that.
But I was so inspired by a lot of the couples that I worked for and how they worked parenthood into their lives, especially my bosses at Cutty's, Charles and Rachel, who kind of just built their business around their family. I believe they had their first kid like right as the business was opening, or maybe right before or during. I can't remember.
Yeah.
But they were like, okay, Sunday's going to be our family day. So we're closed on Sundays, and their hours are such that they can really be with their kids. And I just thought that was so cool.
Yeah.
And they did. I remember they had like a babysitter who would pick the kids up and then bring them to the shop. And
it's really cool.
It was cool to get to know them. And they're such good parents. And they had really inspiring ideas about not bringing work home with them and stuff. I'm sure that's easier said than done. And who knows? Successful, just like trying not to is even impressive.
Correct. Yes.
Especially when you work together.
Yes.
With your spouse. Yeah. They're just the coolest. And I wanted to be like that. So I have to say though, it is such a romantic thing to like bring your kids to the shop and have them know everybody,
Yeah.
but that is not my reality.
No, I would say for most, I think about that a lot of the
Yeah.
romantic things about parenthood, those
Yeah.
stories, and the reality of them is actually a total disaster.
Yeah,
Incredibly
thinking of
stressful.
Nothing good.
kids in the kitchen with like
Really dangerous.
stoves and knives.
Yeah.
Maybe not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man. Yeah, I also love there is something to be said for the sharing of the duty. Like in theory, I like, the husband-wife team, co-parenting, co-businessing. I mean, it's too much to do alone, either of these things. I think that is, assuming the business is there to support it, which is obviously that becomes very stressful if the whole family's income is riding on this one business, which is a tricky space. But it does speak to the fact that it's a lot and too much, even though people do it. It's too much to be kind of solo parenting. It's too much to be running a business alone, like all these things. It would be a better we.
I think it works well when they are very clear about like what their roles are. I think I've seen it go lots of different ways.
Sure.
Yeah.
But most of the time successful when like, someone's duty is more like, okay, I'm in the kitchen and you're the person who talks to the employee, like you're HR.
Yeah. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. Yes. Roles and responsibilities. Yes.
Yeah.
In a marriage and in a working setting is
Right.
useful. I was curious on this idea of identity, which is another theme of what we talk about, which is kind of how the theory being that being a mother, identifying as a mother is a hard thing to be all the time. And often we talk to a lot of people who are like, describing myself as a mother is sort of the last thing on the list. But I was curious how that has evolved for you, like how you think of yourself, where mother shows up in your kind of list of identifiers.
Yeah. I think it's like kind of different on different days, honestly.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I think in at least my female friendships, I find that I actually love relating to people like as individuals first, and then I love that we can like connect over being moms and stuff. But it's nice to like, like if you're a dog owner and you're like walking the dogs and you start knowing all the dogs' names, but you don't actually, and you're just like,
Yes.
you talk about the dogs, but you don't actually talk about the people.
Totally.
And dogs' names,
Yes.
not the people. Sometimes I feel like it can be a little like that. Maybe it's just moving to the suburbs, but
No, that is such a really good analogy. And I feel like that happens to me.
Yeah.
At the library, I'm like, hey, whatever. And then I'm like,
and then it's kind of hard to cross that
yeah.
like line into knowing each other as people. So I am really happy when it kind of moves the other way around, and then you find a community of moms when you kind of already know them. I guess that's like always a dream, knowing each other from childhood or something.
Sure.
But yeah, I don't know. I think I've been clinging a lot to my individualism and felt that I lost it for a bit. And then have had down moments about it but I think again like is sort of an up and down process of there are times I'm sure you both know when in motherhood where you just do have to focus on your kids and they require so much and it's really important but then kind of you do feel like you don't like people will ask you like, oh, what are your hobbies and blah blah blah. I'm like, hobbies? What?
I've never done anything in my life.
Your whole life is a hobby. Yeah.
What's a hobby?
What are the things that take you out of that headspace? Not to be the what are your hobbies, but if you are feeling that way, like do you notice that there is something? Because I imagine like escaping to the business where you're then escaping like your motherhood identities, then you're like business owner. So where do you find
I do find that like, having that third thing has been helpful for me. And I think some of my close girlfriends have been like recommending that to me for years, having something that's yours.
Yeah.
And it's been hard to find, but I finally found getting back into playing sports again has been huge. Something I didn't do really since high school in a real way. And just, I think I was feeling a lot of winter depression like a year or so ago. And I just started signing up for things like through the town. I was like, okay, I don't care. I'm just gonna take pickleball lessons, and then I'm gonna take tennis lessons, and
That's great.
I just did all these little things, and I got like so into tennis, and now I'm just like watching YouTube videos all the time and getting obsessed, and it's kind of fun to have a focus.
Yes.
Try and get better at something and it really like benefits no one. It's like,
but you. It benefits you.
Yeah.
Correct.
So that's kind of been a great outlet, and like has kind of introduced me to a new community, which is super fun.
And you physically can't be doing something else. You can't hold a kid or be baking while you're
has to just like
playing
kind
tennis.
of only be there for a moment, which is really great.
That's huge.
So true. Yes.
Yeah.
I've stumbled back into sports a little bit, and I haven't been able to make space for it consistently, but that's such a good point, V. Like the power of having the third thing is such an important, someone should write a book about like the third thing or like the three-legged stool, because having the third thing makes those other, like it just takes some of the pressure off in some ways of those two. But then finding a third thing that is sort of all consuming. Like I can't be on my phone answering emails at the same time.
Right.
I can't be, I have to be like really in it is really powerful. But how the hell do you make time to do it?
It's funny how like you say you don't have time for anything, but then
you kind of do.
Yeah. I am so obsessed with it. I guess I'm going to just make time.
Yeah.
But the same. Sometimes I do have the time and sometimes I don't.
Mm-hmm.
But I have kind of been working at the shop a little bit less since I found tennis.
I'm here for that for you.
I can get away with it. I do.
Yes. When you do that stuff, then it actually makes you more present and more like a beneficial teammate when you're at work, because you're like, well, I fueled my fire in this other way.
Yeah. Hope so.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah. We talk about filling our cups so you have more to give. And then you mentioned your family is helpful and in the mix to help with kids a bit. What's the like quote childcare solution?
My parents moved to town actually.
Oh, wow.
Which has been amazing. They're both retired, and my sister, I have an older sister. She's 6 years older, and so her kids are older too. And so my parents were really helpful to them. And then now her kids are older, and now my parents are.
You get the parents
on us, and it's just so amazing.
That's great.
It's awesome for everyone. My kids have such a close relationship with them, and my husband's parents live an hour away, so they help too. And we're just so lucky. I know everyone doesn't have that, and especially for my youngest, Dean, has Down syndrome, and I don't know, from 6 months to age 3, just like a lot of like early intervention appointments and stuff.
Sure.
It was so cool spending a lot of time with him on his development, but a lot of appointments. So my parents were just so helpful with all.
Yeah, that's so good.
It's incredible. Yeah.
Has Dean been a transformative figure in your life of thinking about, any kid would be, but thinking about, you mentioned a little bit alluding to having your second kid was when you really kind of, I don't know, took a step back or reassessed or kind of started to look at how you put your life together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it has been. And I think like with Dean, because of the situation, I started building his appointments into my work schedule and stuff. So that was really helpful. He's been amazing. He's been incredible. And just kind of like a big joyous surprise for us and our family. I don't know.
Yes. Yes. One of my college roommates, she's one of 12. 11 or 12, which is nuts.
My body could never.
And one of her siblings has Down syndrome, and they would always talk about how, there are complexities, of course, but there's a wild sense of joy. I find that my kids anyway are a source of like essential silliness of like, it's all just a little goofy. Like, why are we being so real? But I think she would describe her brother as like an extreme dose of that. Yeah, it's like
it's extreme silliness. Which is lovely. But also just like the business, just like a surprise, like, I don't even really know where it's going to take us.
Sure. Yeah.
But I'm kind of, I mean, at first it was intense, but then kind of accepting that feels good.
Yeah. I mean, that's like life, right? We think we like know what to expect. And just when we think we have a handle on things, it's like, actually, so
Yeah.
just embracing that.
Yeah.
Things that come as they will, and you just deal with it when they are here, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Google always had, maybe you absorbed this from our mutual friend, Melissa, but Google had this philosophy of navigating ambiguity. And it was like the thing that would come up on a performance review of like, let's grade you against how your ability to navigate ambiguity. And I think about that a lot in life, which is fundamentally navigating ambiguity on a regular basis.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I feel like you are exceptional at that. Like you, and just the way that you,
Thanks. I think you're just catching me in a calm moment. But
No,
Well, no, I mean, just
even
the way
your
that you were-
choices
yeah,
to
well, just the
do
way
the
that
things
you
you
were
do. Yeah.
reflecting on how you're I mean, and I very much identify with this of like emerging from college and feeling no more clear about what to do next than where I was before. And I think there's something, I don't know, ambiguity gets sort of a bad rap, but it also means you're kind of like paying attention to more things and you're kind of curious about different things and you're grappling with why, even if like on a subconscious level, you're not one to like jump in on what everyone else is doing. Like there's I don't know, in some ways it's more, it seems maybe chaotic, but it's actually more methodical in a certain way. Like you're just like, we're really consuming life and making
It would have been easier
choices
to
along the
choose
way.
like traditional I mean, you have your dad who's a professor, you said, and your mom who's a physician, and then you're like, I'm gonna go try out baking. That's really cool to be like, I don't know, I'm just gonna see. And I'm sure, I don't know about you, but
Dad
like,
didn't love that for a while.
yeah, my dad is also a professor, and when I was exploring arts, he's like, you don't want to try like science, and I'm like, how about this over here? And it's like hard for them to watch, but I'm sure
now that I'm a parent, I get it. I'm like,
for sure.
Wouldn't you love for your kid just to do something that you know will
be successful?
Oh my God, totally. Yeah. That made me think a little bit about, so your parents being so involved. Have there been wild full circle moments where you're seeing your parents parent your child, like you're the parent also now? Has that been a strange, wonderful, I'm sure not always perfect, but like, what have you learned from that?
I don't know. I'm sure I've had moments of reflection on it. But yeah, I mean, I feel like I remember realizing that my parents were people like when I got to college, pretty much.
Same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess I've known about that for a while. But it is interesting seeing them sort of parenting. You know, and real like, I don't know, when you're just the kid, like you're just like, yeah, the world revolves around me, like, and you're not thinking deeply about what roles your parents play, like who does what, and now it's weird.
Have there been any totally crazy chaos stories of juggling the shop, as you call it, and your kids, and like, I don't know, there's some, you're trying to also like feed the kid and then like the milk spills on the bagel, like I don't know, are there wild anecdotes that you're like, wow, I survived that?
Well, because I don't bring the kids to the bagel shop hardly ever, I don't have that kind of overlap, but I mean, the shop does like trickle into my home life, of course. So I feel like there have been moments where it's like husband is out of town, I have the kids, and there's an emergency at the shop. Like, have you seen The Bear?
Oh,
yes. Love The Bear.
Like the first season when there's like the big chaos episode where online ordering goes awry because like someone didn't check the right box online. Like that has happened to us. And it's like, okay, we were supposed to max out at 200 orders, and by accident we forgot to like hit this button. So we received like 500 orders and they're all due at like 5
oh no,
I'm sweating for you.
Yeah.
Home with my kids, managers calling, and I'm like, oh my gosh, there's nothing I can do. I can't even like, I don't know. I think my parents are away, husband's not here, so I like can't go into the shop. So I'm just like, I'm gonna email everybody who ordered and tell them like, I'm so sorry, your order's going to be like 45 minutes late or something. And then my poor team has to like figure this out. There have been chaos moments like that.
Yeah.
Jeez.
But luckily with the restaurant industry, as like stressful as that sort of stuff can be, it's like, no, I don't know. It's just food, you know?
I know.
It's
But
like,
when you
no
really
one's
want that
life is
breakfast
on the
bagel, it
line.
like is a little bit of a crisis. No, but I know. I
It
agree. I do
feels like
sometimes
such
think
a
like I'm
crisis in
not
the
saving
moment.
lives.
Yeah. Then when you're through it, you're like, okay, that was
Yeah.
one day.
I don't know. Me, like 9
It
months
was a bad
pregnant,
day.
that could have been life or death. Like, give
Yeah.
me the
Yeah.
fucking bagel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gosh. Yeah. I feel
Yeah.
like a lot of the COVID, because we had to change things so much during COVID, I feel like that would cause little crises because we just like didn't really know what we're doing.
Sure.
Yeah.
Figuring it out as we went
Yeah.
along.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I have one more, I don't know, deepish question, and then I have some closing questions for you. But, and this concept might be sort of like beneath your life philosophy, but we do talk a lot about this idea of like having it all and sort of this question, can mothers have it all? Should we have it all? What is it all? Do you think about this model of like having it all, and how would you define it all?
Yeah. I don't think about it very much,
Yeah.
but I don't know. I think just because, well, I guess it's not true that I don't think about it. I think I
Hmm.
just maybe think about it on by a different name, but I
Yeah.
guess I do think about it because when I felt too bogged down by one or the other, either home or work, which is just like a natural state of
Hmm.
that, I do crave the balance. So I guess like it all is sort of like the balance.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
I'm lucky to be able to have both like a career and family, and just like trying to get back to that equilibrium is like just a constant state. Like there's always, you can always strive for more while also being kind of happy.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. That's what I'm saying, Mary. You're full of Zen. You didn't realize.
I know. I'm like,
I don't know.
A very like Buddhist, I don't know. It's meditative. It's great. Because it made me think like, I don't know, Bagelsaurus is this wild success. Some people might be like, let's make 12 of them. And let's expand. And I know I'm sure that's something that you've periodically thought about, but also I'm sure you're like,
I don't
what
think
kind of a life do I want to have?
I don't think I that would fit. I think I
Yeah.
really struggle to find the balance if I did something like
yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Even with just on a work level, even without family, I don't know that I would feel as much satisfaction work wise,
Sure.
Yeah.
because I'd be so taken out of like the fun stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Mhm.
No, but I think that's also not, I'll say this maybe coming out of like big corporate life. Like that mindset is so revolutionary. This idea of kind of defining within your own little just personal unit, family unit, whatever, and kind of what your version is of enough. The world wants you to grow and be bigger and make more money and blah 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 blah. But like why? Sometimes like when you have something that's good and nourishing, and like the idea of more isn't necessarily better. More isn't always more. So I really admire that you think about it that way.
Well, thanks. Some might call it lack of ambition. But who knows?
No,
I think anything
you're
but.
curious about
I'll
ambition.
be like, I don't even know. I just don't know how to do that either,
Mhm.
which is fine. But you're right. It's not my goal.
Yeah. Yeah. And I like that you're like, it might not be as fun for me either. Like you wouldn't be quite as connected to it. I love that.
I like making the bagels still.
Yeah. Yeah. Keep making the bagels.
Yeah.
Okay, we have some short answer closing questions if you would indulge us. But
Good.
so if you could go back to your new mom self first go around, is there anything that you would say to her?
Yeah, I would say a couple things. I would say like you'll find yourself again. It's gonna be okay. And I would say maybe don't worry so much about what you should be doing and continue to follow your gut about things. There's no specific number of months that you need to breastfeed to satisfy some like obscure goal for yourself. When you're tired of pumping in that little bathroom at the shop, just like make it work for your life. I think
Yes.
I put a lot more pressure on myself for as is typical motherhood. Put a lot of pressure when you have your first kid, and then slowly like releases with subsequent
Yeah.
kids.
Yes. I love that breastfeeding in the shop was not, when I asked you like some of the moments of chaos, like that wasn't even a reference. Like because a lot of people be like, yeah, I'm in this like tiny bathroom, like breastfeeding on a tile floor.
Blacked it out.
Yes, yes. The things we do. Actually, slightly kind of to that point, is there anything, there's going to be a million things, but if there's sort of thematically something that might have been helpful to make it a little bit easier along your journey of motherhood, is there something that comes to mind that would have made it a little bit easier? Or maybe still now?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. We were just like so fortunate to have my mom just like came and stayed with us
No.
after each of them.
Yeah.
So I feel it would almost be ungrateful to say that there's more. Like, but you know what? I was so hungry after, like, I've
Love
never
you.
been hungrier in my whole life than like
Yes.
a month after giving birth.
Yes.
Truly
I didn't know that.
insatiable.
I feel like everyone was like, "Oh, you're going to be so hungry during pregnancy." I was like, "No, after giving birth, I was ravenous and I just wanted people to bring me a sandwich." And they were fussing over the baby.
What about the mom?
Get this woman a
What
sandwich.
would have been helpful was like sandwiches put into my lap.
Yes.
Yes.
The baby.
Yes.
A sub in one side and the baby in the other.
Totally. Not
Yeah.
that it should be for you to do, but there's a Bagelsaurus moment there, I feel like. The post delivery bagel pack.
To like train my husband better on that.
It's really
Yes.
funny. I love that.
Yes.
At 11, 1, and 3, I need a
Yes.
sandwich and a beverage
Amazing.
by my side.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Make
well,
note.
Everyone loves a bagel, but for me, it was always post delivery. It was like, I want an everything bagel with cream cheese and lox. Like that was all I ever wanted. Maybe with onions. All right. Our closing question gets sentimental, but your kids one day might listen to this. Is there anything that you'd like to say to them?
I guess thanks for making my dreams come true. And it's all worth it. And I hope that we can be as helpful to you guys when you guys become parents as my parents have been to us.
Yeah.
I love that.
Oh, I'd love to spend my old age.
Yes. Mary, you're such a beautiful soul.
Oh.
Your kids are lucky.
They really
No
are.
wonder those bagels are delish. They're like, they have your magic. Yeah. This has been really special. I feel really grateful to have been connected to you.
Yeah.
Like
Thanks
really.
for taking time this morning.
Yeah. Really, really appreciate all you're doing and
indulging all my anecdotes.
No, they're powerful.
Yeah.
Stories are powerful. And you're doing so many amazing things. So thank you for squeezing us in.
And I hope today you get to go play tennis.
I might.
Yes. So wow.
Mary. I feel like
Mary
she's
and
like
bagels.
A cup of chamomile tea. I'm just like
Totally.
she's so sweet.
And I also love that she doesn't think of herself as that necessarily. Or when I said that to her, she's like, that's silly.
Yeah. Like it's just right now.
But you exude serenity and calm and sort of there's an acceptance of life. And like
I was just gonna say acceptance. Yeah. Like she just I think it's really incredible.
But acceptance not in a way that like is I don't know, victim's too strong a word. There's an acceptance of things, like ability to like hold it and then deal with it as opposed to like rebel against it. Or I wonder if her parents would say the same thing. Maybe as a child there was more rebellion, but
I can't
but
picture
also she's quietly rebelling all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I even loved when we got in at the very end, this idea of Bagelsaurus. I mean, it's also insane to have a 10 plus year,
truly,
what do we call it? Like restaurant food establishment.
And through
none
COVID
of them survived.
and with kids.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And she's like, yeah, nobody, I don't know how it happened.
I know,
but
she's so,
her idea that I was like, you know, some people would be like, let's open 6 more. And she was like, I wouldn't feel good about that. Like I wouldn't like, it wouldn't be good for me anymore. I don't really enjoy that as much. Because again, I feel like there's these, like the quiet, I don't know, they're front page of the magazine revolutionary, like everyone needs to see me being revolutionary. And then there are people who are just kind of like doing it. So I'm glad we got to give her a little bit of a platform.
Just doing it. Absolutely.
Yes. any top of mind takeaways? I have one if you want to think.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. I loved the idea of like the third thing in life.
Mm-hmm.
And you have your, career work and you have home life. But the idea of not needing, but like the benefit of having a third thing is a useful philosophy. And it's hard, I think, particularly when your kids are young, to have space for the third thing. But as you get older, like taking advantage of the limited time that you might have to build out like your third thing, whether it's tennis, sports, painting, traveling more, having weekly nights out, whatever it is, that how much that really does. The few moments I've been able to, for me, it would be like playing soccer periodically, but that it does give you perspective on the other two things that allow you to not be so consumed. It's a whole, honestly, it's actually like the whole premise of this podcast. It's like identity. Like your individual identity exists in that third thing. These other two things are kind of contributors or necessary parts of your life that are nourishing and wonderful, particularly if you love your job. And particularly if you enjoy being with kids, which I think on some level, most people with kids find it rewarding as hard as it is. But it's still not really ever about you.
Right.
And so like the third thing being this sneaky way of maintaining identity, which you can kind of carve out a little bit in the other two, but like is wholly about what do you want?
Just
and what do you like?
Yeah. I mean, we touched on this, but just the fact that choosing something that actually takes you out of those other things. You can't be on your phone. You're not tied down to your computer doing emails while you're also doing this thing. It's like fully taking you out and no one's touching you physically or whatever. Like you have your own self. And I think that's so important.
Totally.
And she mentioned like, we think we don't have time, but like if it's something that really fuels your fire and makes you happy, then you make time. And I'm like, fuck yeah, that's true.
Yeah. I do think that's interesting that there are these forcing functions for people to do the thing. I don't even know, like, I don't know. She talks about her kids, particularly her second kid being the reason that she was able, like she had to step away a little bit and relinquish control over some things. Like, what is it? And maybe it's just the way life operates, but could we have made those choices earlier just for us?
Sure.
But maybe not.
Sometimes you need that, or at least for me, like I need that outside force, even when she talked about like finally being able to like accept help or like relinquish control in the shop, right? Where it's like, if I'm not going to do it for myself because that feels too hard, then it's like, oh, other people want this opportunity. So this is something I'm giving them. So then it feels better for you.
Yes.
Sometimes we do need that outside.
Yes, totally.
Reasoning,
Totally. Yeah. She also had, in a way that reminded me a little bit of April Soderstrom and her approach to starting her business. This idea of, she's like, I just am kind of someone who like does it and like doesn't really think about it. And I feel like Mary also described herself as someone who I kind of just, there's never really like a strategic plan. Which again, I'm like, is that true? Like, is it just not, it exists, I think, in a different way, but it's more feeling based, which I think feelings are strategic. But the idea of, she's kind of like, I just did the thing, almost like if I really thought about it, I probably wouldn't have done it. And the importance of not, I fall prey to victim to overthinking all the time.
Yeah, that's so interesting. I definitely like resonate with their thought process way more, where it's like I act and then think after. And sometimes it's like super beneficial and like works out, like for Mary and April, where it's like, if I thought about this too much, I would have thought too much about the consequences versus like benefits. And so I wouldn't have done it, but I just did it because whatever. And like, I definitely feel like in my life, I do the like action first. And then sometimes I'm like, oh, I probably could have done that, like executed that better, or maybe in hindsight, I wouldn't have done this, but like more often than not, like it does work out kind of in this like child mentality of like when you're younger, you don't really have fear over like learning how to ride the bike because you just ride it. And if you fall off, you're like, I don't know, I'm not really thinking about the consequences. And as we get older, it's like, I know that this could hurt and I know that there's a potential, so it's like almost that childlike, just like in a not ignorant or like, I don't know.
Yeah, I think I said something about dumb in the interview, and it's not being dumb enough to take the risk. It's like, I don't know, like minimizing the consequence thought. Like it's putting it in proportion and knowing like, and could be okay anyway.
Well, because there's two sides to it, right? Like for all all the time you spend worrying about the what ifs and what could happen, whatever, then
Yeah.
you also have to spend equal time being like, and it could work out, or like this
Correct.
could happen, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So just kind of
V, it
going for
reminds me of, and we should save it for some other time, but my meltdown like days before finally unpacking the podcast equipment.
when it
To
took so
actually just
long
do
to
this thing.
Yeah.
And I had spent months coming up, well, it had been almost a year maybe, coming up with the idea of doing this. And then months before ordering the equipment, which sat in boxes. And then my idea of doing something for 3 months to be productive was coming up with strategies for everything and like our 20-year plan and our marketing approach and all these things. But then the act of actually just fucking doing the thing was the hardest thing for me.
I think that that's like such a common lesson we
Yeah.
have all had to learn, right? Where it's
Yeah.
like so much the act of doing is way easier than the hype up that we give it. Like
Yes.
we catastrophize everything, right?
Yeah.
And like so often the worrying and the anxiety or the thought process of whatever it is that we're thinking about is like 30 times worse than
Yeah.
actually doing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you get on the other side and you're like, oh, that
Yeah.
wasn't that bad.
Yeah.
Or even if it was, it's still not as bad as you thought it was going to be.
Yeah. Yeah. There's also something about the because there's some areas of life where I'm very much a doer.
Yeah.
But there's something about actions that have huge potential upside. Like those are the hardest. I mean, it's your classic, maybe like the first step of the long climb. That's a new climb. That's the hardest step for me. Otherwise, it's easy for me to take steps and big steps within a mountain I'm already climbing. But to open the boxes, which suggested we're really going to try to build this podcast and really try to build this brand, and which to try means I really hope it
potential
works.
to fail.
And what if it doesn't work? Yes. Yes.
It's so interesting. And this is something like I'm aware of and I've mentioned when you have these fears. And I'm just like, I never want to sound minimizing or whatever because those anxieties are so real. And in that moment, it is really scary. But for me, I'm like, and
I know.
I don't know.
Just open the boxes.
It's just not that serious.
Yeah.
And it is, right? But like, I don't know, this perspective of like, I was having a conversation with my dad about we both had things that are just bringing us anxiety right now and making us feel overwhelmed, whatever. And then at the end, he was like, but anyway, none of this is that serious and we've been through worse. It's not life or death. Yes. We have survived loss of like the greatest human in our life. And this is not that. So like, if it doesn't work, then like, okay.
Yes.
What is someone going to say something like how lame it was? Like,
you're
okay.
Right. You're right. Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. I also think that's what being around little kids sparks that mindset for me too of it's not that serious.
Yeah.
Or catastrophes 5 minutes later we forget what we were upset about. You know what I mean?
Yeah. We at nighttime we're doing more reading before bedtime to kind of set the scene, set the tone. And my choice was The Little Prince. So we read a few chapters every night.
I love The Little Prince.
Okay.
Well, of course.
So
and you have like this whole, you gave our oldest you wrote a love note in the cover of The Little Prince. So of course.
It's just like such a great story of when you're little and you see things in this way. I mean, going back to the bike thing, I didn't even make this connection until now, but we see the good and the opportunity and there's this like rainbow over everything when you're a kid. And then as you grow up, it's like you get a little more scared of the world and you get a little more like anxious and trepidatious at like all these things. And so it's like, I don't know, maintaining that. That's why I loved nannying for so long because it was such a refreshing mindset to be around where I was just like, even for like 8 hours a day, I can be with a human who can make friends with anyone on the street and hold a conversation with a random security guard at Barnes and Noble and smile at a stranger on the T. And like life is okay.
And shit his pants at the same time and think it's funny.
Simultaneously flirt with someone.
Exactly.
Like,
so true.
and like that's really what life is. Like get over, I don't know, we got to get out of our own way.
It's true. It's true.
Mary, you got out of your own way. You're crushing it. And your kids are so lucky to have you as a mom.
I agree. And we're lucky to have her bagels. I'm going to go get one today. I'm actually just even talking about it so much made me so hungry for a delish bagel.
Send her a picture. And proud Wilmington
Oh my God, I forgot. What a connect in the
I need to
beginning.
check.
Wilmington, Delaware.
I swear I also was Christian or whatever. I have to ask my dad.
That's so funny.
But I love that for us.
I know. All right, little sparks of joy
Yeah.
in these moments. Where's our joy right now or in this week?
I have mine. That my joy this week is that I met with the start of like some ladies, some resources who are going to help us with some sleep training stuff, or minimally just give us some insight and talk about getting out of my own way. I was like really anxious about accepting help because I don't know, think I have to do it by myself. And they were so lovely, and it really took a lot of the fear around it.
Oh, I'm so glad. I was going to ask you about that separately anyway. I'm so glad it went well.
They were really kind.
Good.
And the boy crushed it and was just like really cute the whole time. So I was like, and they kept being like, he's incredible. And I was like, I know.
Yeah.
It was very validating. And also just like, I was very worried about being like pitied or like, oh, you poor thing. Like you haven't slept in 8 months, whatever. And it's like, I don't want that. I just want like, yeah, this like sucks. And like, here's some resources and here's some things we could do. And it's a phase. And I was like, that felt good. So
good.
It's the first step. There was no like solutions, but my joy is that I did something that scared me and then it ended up not being so hard. So
that's so good.
Thanks.
I'm proud of you. I'm hopeful that it helps.
Same.
My joy actually is I'm applying what we learned from Coach Erica Dombach.
Yes.
Who is always Erica Walsh to me.
So
and
cool.
The way my mouth formulates words. But I coach my son's soccer team.
Yeah.
And Jason has a thing tonight and I have to bring all the kids with me.
Oh,
and
you're a rock star.
Yeah. I mean, I shouldn't say have to. I get to. And
fuck.
I'm trying to embrace it as she did, looking at what the opportunity presents and like sort of allowing the mess to be messy as opposed to if these other two kids weren't here on the sidelines, I could be like way more present and more engaged and on top of the kids, getting them to do a really productive 10-year-old soccer practice. But I'm going to just enjoy that our whole team is there with another team. Yeah.
My initial reaction is, oh, let me come so I could sit with them, whatever. But then I was thinking, your kids are great and they're your kids and it's going to be fun. Get them involved.
Yeah, I know.
Who cares?
I know.
Like, let them run up and down the sidelines.
Exactly.
And it's fine.
Yes.
And it doesn't have to be the most productive. It just has to be fun.
Yeah, exactly.
And whatever you get done is going to be great.
I know. It'll be fun. It's worth an experience. So yeah,
also,
that's my joy.
Hopefully weather is good tonight. I'm looking out.
I know. It won't be rainy. It might be a little windy, might be a little bit chilly, but hopefully not horrible.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Love this for you.
Amazing. Well done, everybody.
Yay.
On to the next. I need more Fresca. I need more coffee.
I was just going to say, bring a Fresca tonight and then you'll be fine.
I know. We need those bubbles. Phenomenal. Okay. Wow. V, it's been a week. We've done a really good job. Good job. Thank you so much. I know.
Love you.
I'm so proud of you. I love you too. All right, go crush life. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for joining us. Please remember to like and subscribe so you don't miss an episode and we can reach even more rock stars like you. The Mothers is a production of Backline Media, shining a light on those who carry the team.